Good morning and welcome to the National Newspaper Publishers Association's Let It Be Known. A Texas man who allegedly threatened Congresswoman Maxine Waters is going to stand trial for that crime after a grand jury issued an indictment. We will have details. And one Democratic congressman has amassed quite the following on TikTok, and his views may upset many of his colleagues, and we'll tell you about that as well. Also, Facebook just settled a class action lawsuit for sharing your information and mine's too. And many of its users are going to get at least a couple of dollars for their troubles. We will bring you the latest on that. And the cop who fired 16 rounds into Breonna Taylor's apartment and whose bullet killed Breonna has a new job in law enforcement. We're going to tell you where he is working. Uh, Power 96 this morning is just not here for it. He is upset with this hiring. He was up early, y'all. He was writing in early. He is not here for it today. Also, my sister is back. Dr. Nicole went on a girls' trip to Atlanta. I was looking at some of the pictures, and she's back. And Big Sister's watching. And Big Sister's watching, meaning that, gosh, when I was in school, when I was in elementary school, I get in trouble, and Big Sister come down and just shake her head. What are you doing, boy? What are you doing? And I'm back from Mexico. They didn't take me. They didn't take me. I'm alive. Back from Mexico. Had a nice time in Cuernavaca, Mexico. So here we are this morning. Maxine Waters. We're going to start with the Congresswoman, Maxine Waters. Texas man allegedly threatened to kill Democratic Rep. Maxine Waters last year was indicted by a federal grand jury in California. Prosecutors said Michael Garrity, 60 years old, was arrested, and a grand jury returned an indictment against him on 8 counts related to the threats. The U.S. Attorney's Office in Los Angeles said in a statement they listed in federal court records as representing Garrity did not, as those representing Garrity did not immediately respond to news requests for comment, but the threats were made in 4 voicemails in August and November. Maxine Waters' auntie, Maxine, of course, is the California Democrat serving her 16th term in the House of Representatives. In August, Garrity allegedly said he would cut your throat in a message he left for Auntie Maxine. A special agent with the U.S. Capitol Police even filled out an affidavit and filed it in court as part of the criminal complaint against Garrity. They said he made racial comments in some of the calls to Maxine's office in Hawthorne in the Los Angeles area. Of course, Garrity also left life-threatening voicemails at the office of 2 other Congress members of color, one of which referred to her being Latina. The agent wrote in the affidavit. They are not named in the document, the other members of Congress, but the charges announced by the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Central District of California pertain to the threats against Maxine Waters. Garrity was indicted on 4 counts in making these threats in interstate communications and 4 counts of threatening a United States official. He is free on bond, believe it or not, in Texas. So that's one to watch. How do you let this guy go free on bond? Threats directed against members of Congress have been on the rise for years, but it did dip slightly last year. But that did not stop this guy from adding to the stats, particularly against Black and Latina Congresswomen. And you know, my girl AOC is always getting threats one way or the other. So this divisive politics and divisive Congress, Senate, you name it. This politics is so divisive today that this is what we have come to expect. Nancy Pelosi's husband, of course, was attacked in their home, and the beat goes on, and no one's stopping these wild, unhinged politicians. They're not holding them accountable the way they would hold you and I accountable. And one such representative, member of Congress, a Democrat from North Carolina, Representative Jeff Jackson, has been in office less than a year, and he understands how chaotic and crazy Congress has been. He is already the most followed congressman on TikTok, and his musings about Congress, including the
Voices in Congress
nature,
are totally faking it.
millions of
These
times.
people who
Take
have
a
built
listen.
their brands around being perpetually outraged, it's an act. I've seen a bunch of examples. Here's one. I've been in committee meetings that are open to the press and committee meetings that are closed. The same people who act like maniacs during the open meetings are suddenly calm and rational during the closed ones. Why? Because there aren't any cameras in the closed meetings, so their incentives are different. What I've seen is that members of Congress are surrounded by negative incentives. There are rewards for bad behavior. You know what the big one is? Being able to reach you. The big thing that modern media and modern politicians have learned is that if they can keep you angry, they'll hold your attention. And they both want your attention. So if you're a politician and you show certain media outlets that you can help them keep their audience angry, they'll give you their audience. And because so many politicians are willing to play that game, now they're in competition with each other to see how fake angry they can be. So that's real bad. But here's something good. What I love about this, about communicating with you directly, is that the incentives are different. They can be positive. They can be about speaking to you with respect and real information and in a normal tone of voice. Because if I can talk to you directly, I don't have to yell. And if you don't have to yell to be heard, the whole conversation changes. So going forward, when you hear some enraged member of Congress say something absurd, your first question shouldn't be, how can they possibly believe that? It should be, do we think they actually do?
And he went on to say, for those who want to see politics look less like the WWE, he says, I will keep you posted. And perhaps that is one of the bigger reasons why we still see, as the story we brought last year, a 95-year-old judge, or Dianne Feinstein situation, or even, dare I say, Maxine Waters. I mean, she's been 16 terms. Eleanor Holmes Norton has been the only delegate from DC since 1992. Um, Perhaps we don't see the retirements of these individuals, um, because you don't want these younger ones coming in and telling the truth. This guy is like, look, here's the deal, here's the real deal. And young people, for the most part, at least what the stats show, a lot of young people use TikTok much more so than, say, middle age and older use TikTok. The younger ones, and this congressman, who's quite young himself, took to that platform to bring what he called the truth about Congress, and it has raised eyebrows. I think the post, if I'm not mistaken, 45 million views on his post about Congress. So people, it tells you too, Congress people, that the young people are interested in certain things, but most important, they are interested in the truth. And that is a fact. David Youngblood says young people want real emotion, not fake outrage. In other words, they want real representation. There should be a message, but each party, both parties, you're not paying attention. Neither one of them are paying attention. Um, and he's right. He says they're saying it out loud. This was on the previous story. David says they're saying it out loud. Um, we hate the blacks and browns. And Power 96 says that, as far as this congressman, he must be talking to Marjorie Taylor Greene, the honey boo boo of politicians. I think that's even giving her too much credit. Power 96, honey boo boo. Did that honey boo boo have like sense? I think so. I've never watched that crazy show, but it appears she might have had more sense than Marjorie Taylor Greene. But Facebook, uh, several of you are watching right now on Facebook, anyone in the US who used Facebook in the last 16 years can now collect a piece of a $725 million settlement by the parent company Meta tied to privacy violations as long as they fill out a claim on a website set up to pay out money to the social network's users. The settlement stems from multiple lawsuits that were brought against Facebook by users who claimed that the company improperly shared their data with third-party sources such as advertisers and data brokers. The litigation began after Facebook was embroiled in a privacy scandal in 2018 with Cambridge Analytica, which scrapped user data from the site as part of an effort to profile voters. So y'all remember the whole Russian thing and how they got the information. Well, all of this is tied together. Meta has denied any liability or wrongdoing under the settlement. Of course they did. No one admits wrongdoing when they settle. When O.J. Simpson settled with the families of Goldman and Nicole Brown Simpson, he said, I didn't do it. But he still was liable for 30 something million dollars. When you're paying out that much, and in this case, $725 million, you did something wrong. Just like the Fox lawsuit with Dominion, they were supposed to apologize and they offered a very, very tepid apology for that. But they did something bigly wrong in that case, too. So the agreement with Facebook means that the U.S. residents who use Facebook between May 24th, listen to these dates, folks, May 24th, 2007, and December 22nd of last year, 2022, can file a monetary claim as long as they do so before August 25th of this year. You have to file by August 25th. And so how do you claim the money under the Facebook settlement? Well, go to the claim website to fill out your claim, or else print out the claim and mail it to this address: Facebook Consumer Privacy User Profile Litigation, care of Settlement Administrator, 1650 Arch Street, Suite 2210, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, 19103. And what information do you need? The claim asks for basic information: your name, address, email, phone if you resided in the U.S. between May 24th, 2007 and December 22nd, 2022. If you were a Facebook user between that time, and if you deleted your account in that period, the date range when you were a Facebook user, your Facebook username, the payment service, your preference, the service you prefer, such as PayPal, Venmo, or prepaid MasterCard. How long does it take to fill out the form? It should only take a few minutes. And how much money will you get? Well, that's unclear because the settlement amount, of course, depends on how many people fill out the claim. If you're the only person who fills out the claim, you're going to get $725 million. But of course, 725 million people will probably fill out the claim. And David's asking, any idea what the individual checks will look like? Most likely, David, at most, you're talking 20, 30 bucks. Is it worth it? It's up to the individual to decide, because naturally there are millions upon millions, hundreds of millions of Facebook users between that time, and how many will fill it out depends. That depends on how many will fill out the claim, David. The claim website notes that they could be awarded up to 25% of the settlement, or 181.3 million. So that's the thing. 181.3 million might be what it comes down to for those who are receiving it. The lawyers are taking most of it, as always. So it's, again, up to the individual to decide if they want to even bother filing the claim. But it might be the best thing. At least you'll have on record that you were not happy with your information being shared. The claim site notes that there is a final approval hearing for when the court will decide whether to approve the deal and award attorney's fees and other costs. That will be on September the 7th. If the settlement is approved, the case could still face appeals, which would take an unknown amount of time to be resolved. The website goes on to note. So it's one of those situations. I'll tell you what, every time I get in my mail part of this settlement, if it affected me in some certain way, I'm always joining the class action. I'll be getting these little checks, 30, $40 here and there. Hey, buy some ice cream. So the former, moving on, ice cream, it's 7:47 in the morning. Breonna Taylor, folks, the former Louisville police officer who fatally shot Breonna Taylor, has a new job, and I know people are outraged, and it is very outrageous. He took a job in a county northeast of Louisville. The Carroll County Sheriff's Office confirmed over the weekend that the hiring of Miles Cosgrove, who was fired from the Louisville Metro Police Department in January 2021 for violating use of force procedures and failing to use a body camera during the raid on Breonna Taylor's apartment. Taylor, of course, a Black woman, was killed March 13, 2020 by police executing a narcotics search warrant. None of the 3 white officers who were fired in Taylor's home who fired, I should say, weapons into Taylor's home, were charged by a grand jury in her death. Robert Miller, the chief deputy in Carroll County, pointed to that fact, I should say, in referencing the hiring of Cosgrove. Of course he did. Of course. And this is why those prosecutions, Power 96, are very, very critical. There's a protest in Carroll County. It's planned for today in response to the hiring. Investigators said that Cosgrove fired 16 rounds, mostly blindly, just into her apartment after the front door was breached, and that Taylor's boyfriend fired a shot at them in self-defense. Federal ballistics experts said they believe, or at least they found, that the shot that killed Breonna Taylor came from that individual, Officer Cosgrove. Power 96 says Officer Cosgrove should have been fired in 2009 when he shot a Black person back then. Look, the hunt is on, and let's face it, you know who the hunted is. In November, the Kentucky Law Enforcement Council voted not to revoke Cosgrove's state peace officer certification. That meant that he could apply for other law enforcement jobs in the state. Again, the beat goes on and on, and I hear you, Power 96. I understand where you're coming from on that. It's just pretty amazing that we continue to talk about these things, and continually, nothing is done. We see that officers who are involved in these shootings, particularly, as he says, Clantucky, particularly when they are not charged, even when they've been charged, they move on to the next department and the next department. And so this continues to happen, and nothing is done. Nothing is done. So this guy will be licensed, continues to be licensed, I should say. And now that he's got another badge and more guns, no doubt he didn't give up his guns when he left the other department. He will be able to go and burst into someone's home on a illegal warrant, and do whatever he will. There could be another Breonna Taylor out there for him, and we will be talking about this again. So what can be done, Power 96? David, what can be done, David? It's up to again, this gun crazy country, who's supposed to be so for law enforcement, yet the president of the United States of America ordered, pretty much, at least incited the insurrection in which law enforcement officers were killed. So it's a contradiction, isn't it? And CNN, we conclude today with this. CNN has hired Gayle King and Charles Barkley in a new program called King Charles. in which they will air weekly on CNN, as the network has lost more than 40% of its viewers over the past month alone. And they're trying to revive the the one-time network that was once cable news's unquestioned leader, with all of the talk about politics and elections, and CNN not distinguishing themselves from Fox News in the sense that they took a side. We are to be objective. But CNN, also the home of Don Lemon and his shenanigans, have lost a lot of viewers, and they continue to bleed viewers as MSNBC has surpassed them constantly in the ratings. And of course, Fox News, or we can't call it Fox News, right? Because the Dominion suit, if you didn't believe it before the Dominion suit, you certainly have to understand now that is not news. Austin Cooper says he will not be watching King Charles. But it speaks, not only speaks to the desperation of ratings, Austin. This also speaks to the devaluation of real news. We continue to see a dearth of real news that matters, news that concerns Austin Cooper or David Youngblood or Power 96 or any of you. It's just a disservice to the American public that we are getting entertainment over real news. And Power 96 says, sad to say, but Gail and Chuck will not make him watch CNN. Austin said, I won't be watching. And it seems to be the sentiment. They are desperate over there. But if you give folks, that old saying, give them what they want. They've mistaken a lot of things. And here's the big mistake. People want to know what's going on more so now than ever. And they don't want to hear you give your opinions that telling you what to believe. They don't want to hear what you want them to believe. Just give them facts. Let's go back to Max Robinson, the great Max Robinson, and folks like that gave you news. They gave you facts. David Youngblood says CNN needs new, fresh personnel, not rehashed personalities. Well put, David. And that's the mistake that they continue to make, pouring money after money into something that just doesn't work. This works. Dare I say it? This works. Pour some money into this. This works. We have to give the people news and information. Folks tune in here for information. They tune in here. David comes ready to bear whatever it is. Bernard Shaw has to be turning his grave. Power 96 says he's another one. Bernard Shaw. When did he get on the camera and say, this is what I think you should believe, instead of saying, folks, here's what happened. And that's what people want. That's why the young ones are going to TikTok. We talked about the congressman earlier. 45 million views. They're going to TikTok. They're going to talk to me, is what they're saying. Give me information. What that congressman did earlier, as we brought you earlier, he gave them information. And now they have something to process when you say, go to the polls. Well, when they go to the polls, they have something to process. They know where you stand. And CNN, Fox continue to try and manipulate voters, and not just voters, but the public at large. They continue to try to manipulate. Don Lemon says women are past their prime after they reach 30. Is he? I'll leave it at this. He don't have a woman. That's why he could say that. How about that? So it's horrible, but it's the way it is. And that's why the black press, anybody from the black press watching is going to say, that's why the black press remains viable after 196 years. So there you have it, folks. The morning headlines on Let It Be Known. We hope that it can do something to help start your day. And we'll be back here tomorrow with some more headlines as Austin Cooper closes us out. Even though he's not here sitting with me on this one, he's closing us out. He says, we have enough, quote, dummied down news without adding this nonsense to the mix. Couldn't agree more. Austin Cooper with the last word today. Thank you all for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.